Lanlan, who works in a private company in Shanghai, has had two failed relationships. At the age of 30, she was urged by her family to settle down as soon as possible. She made a few posts expressing her feelings on a social networking site called Douban. It was also here that she met Mr. Li, who said he saw her post and had the same feeling. He was quite hopeful about the relationship but could not meet the right person. When she finally met someone who was in the same boat as her, Lanlan started to connect with him. Li is more gentlemanly than Lanlan imagined. He helped to calm her anxiety, talked warmly to her, and they also shared many interests, often talking for an entire day. Lanlan also wondered if Li was unreliable, but his homepage, from location information to photo albums and status, showed that he was a legitimately nice guy who had lived a lively life and was well-educated. Soon, as the topic deepened, the two talked about the future, and Li told Lanlan that he actually does not have any financial burdens because of his own investments over the years. He had recently discovered loopholes on the investment platform that could definitely help make a big profit. After receiving an invitation and seeing his investment incomes, Lanlan decided to take the risk and trust him. As a matter of fact, within a few days after the investment, it yielded more return than she expected, and Lanlan began to fully invest with Li. Although she only had 30,000 yuan in savings, she took out a large loan and continued to invest with Li's encouragement. When waiting to invest in the third round, Lanlan could no longer withdraw cash from that investing platform, but Li told her that he also borrowed a ton of money to invest in this platform, so he asked her to trust him. This time, Li was not as good-tempered as before, and as soon as Lanlan expressed doubts, he began to lose his temper, so she didn't dare to doubt him. But Lanlan still feels that Li is her only saving grace and naively thought that she can only rely on him to withdraw her money. Lanlan didn't know that the butcher knife was already swung at her. Suddenly, Li disappeared, and the online account was deactivated. At the same time, Lanlan's 30,000 yuan savings and 220,000 yuan in loans were all taken away. Lanlan said in a Douban post, "I have called the police, but there is a high probability that I won't be able to get my money back. The only way I can pay off all my loans is if I don't eat or drink for over 3 years." Lanlan has since disappeared from social platforms. The story of Lanlan is a typical example of a telecom fraud called the pig butchering scam. This is an emerging scam that has spread throughout China and even to overseas Chinese circles in the last 2 years and caused serious harm. It originated in Southeast Asia and is also known as the Southeast Asian pig butchering scam. The fraudsters are mostly Chinese people from Fujian province who hide in Myanmar and the Philippines, and they scam people through online dating and making friends. Their target are mainly people in mainland China, but now they also expanded to overseas Chinese. The name pig butcher was given by the scammers themselves, who called their victims pigs, calls the online dating tools pig troughs, calls the chat scripts they use to swindle their victims pig feed, and calls the money scam butchering pigs. In the end, the victim suffers financial losses and is humiliated like a pig, which is both mentally and financially damaging. The scam routine roughly goes like this. The first step, online dating. Through a social app or dating site, they add you as a friend, establish frequent conversations, and you will establish a romantic relationship to develop your trust. This step is the most difficult step and requires someone to write a detailed chat script after analyzing the personality traits and weaknesses of the target. The second step is to lure in the investment. When the time is ripe, scammers will coax you to deposit money into their self-made platform, which are usually located abroad, so that even if something happens, you can't do anything about it. The vast majority of pig butchering scams is related to network gambling platforms. Recently, there are also futures contract and other stocks platforms. The scammer begins to lure you in with a small investment, then makes a few back-end operations to make it seem like you made a small profit, and even lets you withdraw the money to make you trust them. The third step is to coax you to invest a large amount of money, saying that they have a firm relationship with the insider, or perhaps they have mastered the ins and outs of the trade. promising that as long as you follow their steps, you can make and earn a huge profit, and once we earn a lot of money, we can plan our future together. From the development of online dating to true love, there will certainly be the step of meeting face to face. So once the scammer says they want to meet you, they will also take the opportunity to put forward the proposal to get you to invest a large amount of money. This time, the victim's mind is filled with the thoughts of meeting their dream person, and is also at their most vulnerable, so that is when the pig butchering begins. The fourth step is the completion of the deposit. The victim finds that their balance on the platform did not increase, and also cannot withdraw their money. The victim begins to have doubts, panic, and question the scammer. This time, the scammer has two options. One option is that if they see you still have some trust in them, and the amount of deposit is still relatively small, then you are still of potential value to them. They will then make up various reasons to cajole you, and persuade you to continue to recharge your account, promising that once you recharge a certain amount, you'll receive a level of membership. Once you get that membership, you will have liquidity, and can then withdraw a large amount. If they see that you have lost your trust in them and you won't fall for their words again, they will go straight to the final step and disappear so that you'll never find them again. According to Chinese media reports, in recent years, many of the Southeast Asian pig butchering scammers are hidden across Metro Manila. The pig butchers are numerous and well hidden. From the opening of the scam to the establishment of a fake website to the closing and disappearance, each step has become part of an assembly line. The team's security is also very strict, and it is impossible to get in and out of the den without ID cards and credentials. Coupled with Southeast Asia's open attitude towards gambling sites, it is almost impossible to call the police and have legal sanctions. An 80-page internal document of the Philippine pig butchering criminal gang was seized by the Chinese police in 2019, titled The Latest Pig Butchering Strategy. Each victim is actually facing at least 4 people working in a small team assembly line. The team is generally divided into 4 groups. The feeder group, that is, the person responsible for using various data to find the target. The communication group, directly responsible for chatting up the victim. The technical group, responsible for renting servers and website technical issues. And the money laundering group, responsible for handling fake bank cards and transferring money overseas. Each person needs to go through a week or even a month of brainwashing training before conducting the fraud, and behaves in a logical and meticulous manner, making it difficult to find loopholes. In order to ensure that the fraud goes smoothly and easily lure in victims without drawing the attention from the internet police, many groups have also organized studies of criminal law, such as the study of cybercrime, as well as psychology and sociology. They have a clear internal division of labor. The feeder group uses data crawlers to obtain or purchase user information from dating sites, and then uses dating sites, social forums, and dating apps to carefully select their targets. Targets are mainly single young people who are eagerly looking for a relationship, divorced middle-aged men and women who want to reorganize their families, potential extramarital lovers who intend to cheat, and homosexuals are the first choice targets. From statistical data, most of those deceived were women who were active in the first and second tier cities. The commonality of these people is that they have no family around, no stable relationship, lack of care, and at the same time are very eager for love. Once the target is selected, the feeder group will pass all the information gathered to the communication group. After establishing contact with the victim, the communications group will create an image package based on the traits of the target: age, region, job, hobbies, income, and etc. Precisely formulate the corresponding fraud, each scammer will make up a whole set of detailed stories about his or her persona before starting the chat, from small things like nicknames to rocky relationship experiences. During the fraud, the technical team responsible for renting servers will cooperate with the needs of the communications team to build different gambling websites and investment platforms for the victims to use. They can also modify the back-end operations according to the requirements of the communications team to hook on the pigs. The money laundering group will then receive ID cards from underground channels, such as fake bank cards used to receive the victim's deposit money, and then transfer it abroad through fake accounts to erase any traces. When the victim is fully exploited, the communications person will disappear, the target's account will be frozen, the website used for fraud will be sold for a couple dollars, and the whole process ends. With the pig butchering scam gradually becoming familiar to the public, many active fraud gangs quickly improved their methods based on popular current investment projects. For example, gaming websites, Bitcoin, and other digital currency trading websites, making it difficult to guard against. According to a user of a popular dating software, based on a private surveying of friends around her, 80% of the handsome guys on dating software are pig butchers. Basically, you can tell from the matching speed. If it only takes around an hour to match, then the guy is 100% a butcher. The pig butchering fraud cases are very high. According to data from the Hangzhou Anti-Fraud Center, in the first half of 2020 alone, there were more than 1,200 pig butchering frauds in Hangzhou, involving a total amount of 230 million RMB, and the average amount involved in a single case was close to 200,000. Extending this data to the entirety of China, from January to August of last year alone, the losses from pig butchering frauds in China has reached 3.88 billion RMB, equivalent to $608 million US dollars, accounting for 21.3% of total losses in fraud cases nationwide. Among them, the average loss in a single case is 181,000 RMB, 4.8 times the average loss in other types of cases. Why are the victims of this fraud all predominantly Chinese? The main reason is that the majority of the fraudsters are Chinese from Fujian, who will use mainland Chinese and overseas Chinese as their targets. First of all, it is easy to communicate in the same language. More importantly, they understand Chinese psychology and have the social foundation and lifestyle, which makes deception much easier. Chinese people love to save face, and social platforms are filled with all kinds of comparing and bragging, basing their sense of achievement on comparisons with others. This also makes the real communication between people fall into a serious state of distrust, where many people try to show superiority and triumph over others, so that each wants to hide their true side. However, people's need for trust does not disappear, but it's just suppressed and hidden. Everyone wants to have someone to relax and talk to, and cannot get satisfaction from people around them, thus providing a wide market for these scammers. In addition, the widespread black box and insider trading in Chinese society makes it difficult to distinguish reality from fraud. Even some brokers and traders with official titles are involved in more or less fraudulent practices. For example, if Evergrande defaults on its debts, is it not also a kind of advanced fraud? If the path to success for high-ranking officials and wealthy individuals were exposed, wouldn't it contain a lot of underground practices and fraud as well? So there is no clear boundary between deception and legitimate investment. Scammers only need to establish initial trust with their victims, and then they can use insider trading to convince the other party. Mr. Wen Zhao, an expert on Chinese affairs, said, looking back at China's history, the biggest pig butchering scam was aimed at all the peasants in China. The Chinese Communist Party first put up the banner that they're working for all the peasants to be liberated, and stated that they were the party of workers and peasants. They promised that they catered to the emotional needs of the vulnerable peasant class, which makes the peasants feel that they finally found someone they can connect to. Then came the land reform, rent and interest reductions, the fight against the landlords and the distribution of land, so that the poor could benefit, and small favors could be offered to consolidate trust. After the consolidation of the national regime, the final step of butchering the pig began. The land reverted back to the government, and not only so, even the pigs and chickens have become state property. The peasants now own even less than before the revolution. All their investments were lost. With such a successful example set by the CCP itself, is it even possible for frauds to ever be eliminated in the future?